What makes connectivity really meaningful to people?
Internet is not only a new platform that can utilized by the local communities to communicate and to access informations, but also it can be very useful to enhance the artistic and cultural expressions.
In the second season, we continue to address community-centered connectivity initiatives. As you know, these projects must meet communities' needs. They must provide meaningful internet communications infrastructure or services to communities in urban, rural, and remote locations. They should respond to the diverse needs and interests of communities. By doing so, also allow them to participate in their own development. As we saw in the first season of this podcast, community-centered connectivity initiatives are complementary to the internet access offered by commercial providers and state-sponsored public networks. They help to diversify internet access markets. They offer affordable and locally relevant content and service alternatives for communities. We believe that the social values of community-centered connectivity initiatives make them different from traditional stakeholders in the ecosystem. And that's why today we're going to talk about some principles identified by the Local Networks Initiative in many of these connectivity alternatives. These principles were published on the APC's website in 2024, and we'll leave the link so you can explore them in the description of this episode. Today, we're going to reflect on some of these principles in practice, based on the amazing interviews we conducted in Season 1 of this podcast. I'm Thiago Moiano from Brazil. If you don't know me yet, I'm the host of Season 2 of the Routing for Communities podcast. Join me to listen to voices from different countries who will share with us diverse connectivity experiences built by the communities themselves. This is Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world. Season 2, Episode 3.
We've done it, and we've done it really, really well, and it works, and it's viable, and it's economical, and it's owned by the people, and it's looked after by the people.
That's Chris Kander, one of Barnes' founders who was recognized by Queen Elizabeth II for her work in taking the internet to rural communities. Barnes stands for Broadband for the Rural North. This is a community benefit society in England, which means that the organization must serve the broader interests of the community, and that any surpluses must go right back into the community. The members themselves own the initiative that provides internet connection to the people of many villages. That's the principle of being participatory. In the early 2000s, Chris and the others organized themselves to seek solutions to the internet access gap they experienced.
Each of those people brought different skills to the pot. So one was an accountant, one was an engineer, one was a doctor. There was all different mindset of people on the management committee. And Barry drew up a business plan, which we kept inspecting and looking at and adding things to. But it was Barry's genius plan. And we went to the city council, who were going to be our sponsors, because we weren't anybody. We were just a management team of community nutcases. So the project would be fronted by the city council, who were fully supportive of getting the internet to 8 of their parishes at no cost to themselves, because this was a grant. And so £750,000, according to our plans, would have built a backbone. So from a breakout point of dark fibre, we could then feed our own fibre to our 8 communities.
As you can see, Barn enables the community to shape the infrastructure or services by participating in developing its community-centered vision and its deployment, operations, and use. Community-centered connectivity initiatives can also improve the personal, social, political, and economic lives of people living in the community, particularly for those who are structurally marginalized, such as women, the youth and elderly, refugees, racial and ethnic minorities, and people with disabilities. These initiatives enable communication rights and other rights of community members. For example, education and healthcare, as well as the collective rights of communities, including racial and ethnic minorities, and people living in marginalized or at-risk territories. That's why the principles of well-being and human rights are interconnected in several community-centered connectivity initiatives, like the Amadiba Community Network, a project that's been strengthening the community's fight to defend their land, the coast of their country, and their people through access to the internet on the coast of South Africa. Lungelo Mitwa tells us more about it.
My village, Amadiba, is like the whole Ponderland. We are a rural village, which some people from outside, they regard us as the primitive people, which they say we are living in the past, because our village is still very natural, very raw, and our houses are actually scattered. They are scattered maybe 500 meters in between from one house to the other. Of which that space between the houses, between the homestead, we use it for farming, also using for grazing. So we are in a rural area which is close to the ocean, a very unspoiled ocean, very wild ocean. Our area our coast actually is known as the Wild Coast because there's not much building along the coast. It is beautiful. There's waterfalls plunging into the ocean. We have cliffs, we have forest, we have hills, we have across my village, we have a game reserve, Kambati Nature Reserve, which you see many animals in the reserve. And our people are still practicing the old ways, as people say. We still clinging on to our culture, our religion. We still know that a person is a person because of the next person, of the other person. So that's why we have a thing called Ubuntu. Ubuntu means humanity. Ubuntu means I am because you are.
Amadiba lives not only on its natural beauty and the preservation of its traditions, but it is also known as a community that is threatened by a titanium mining project that has met strong rejection from the local community as well as resistance for decades. And this leads us to another principle for community-centered connectivity initiatives: environmental awareness. They must design the infrastructure or services in a way that contributes to the preservation of the environment and biodiversity of the territory, and with care for communities in those territories as well.
Our reasons why we're fighting against this mining and stuff is because we know that we are indigenous people of this land, and then we are belonging to the land. We are dependent to the land because we know that we are going to be moved once the money come in to be relocated. Having Wi-Fi in the community will be very helpful. As I'm saying, we have many stories to share with the world. We have struggles and victories.
Community-centered connectivity initiatives should also actively seek to understand the gender power dynamics and the different lived experiences within a community. This principle is so important that we transformed it into a whole episode for our podcast. If you haven't listened to episode 2 yet, don't miss it. But for now, let's listen to a woman's voice from Nigeria on the topic.
My name is Harira Abdurrahman Wakili from Kano, Nigeria. I am 28 years old. I'm working in the area of digital inclusion, gender marginalization, and also working in the area of promoting women participation in digital spaces, as well as promoting women participation in politics, women participation in decision making, among others. An example of one of the community is Pacifica community. Is a community whereby they have a combination of traditional rulers and the youth. So they were very active. At the beginning of community network projects, we discovered that both the young and elderly people in the community are very active when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to promoting their community issues and all of that. But one thing we discovered in Pacifica community is that there is low participation of women. At the beginning of the project, we tried to focus on women, on working together with the stakeholders in the community, with the local stakeholders, to see that we sensitize them and educate them on the power of women in the community and the importance of women coming out to support, to participate in the community-based activities. Because we believe that if the elderly people will be active there, the male youth of the community will be active, so definitely there are women issues that are yet to be addressed in the community.
Sustainability is also a principle for community-centered connectivity initiatives. They must sustain their operations considering local economic practices and values. Barn, in Northern England, is a good example of that. The average cost for broadband in the United Kingdom is around 0.86 pence per megabit per month, almost $1. Barn's official price is closer to 0.03 pence per megabit. In other words, the network built by the community offers high-quality connectivity at significantly lower costs for the users. Another experience in the countryside of Colombia shows us how community-centered connectivity initiatives value local culture, another fundamental principle. We're talking about the Yahueja Casil Community Network in an indigenous community. To tell you more about it, we spoke to Edinson Camayo, indigenous leader and the project's coordinator. He's a member of the Nasa Indigenous Nation and starts speaking in the Nasayu language. Colombia's census statistics revealed that the percentage of Nasa people still speaking their own language was rapidly decreasing. In 2018, that number was down to 40%. How could they change the situation? One of the instruments was information and communication technologies.
And that's when we realized that we have to have technological autonomy and relevant communication. And then we said, well, we are offline here. So we started to work on it. And that's when we started with the internet, audiovisual communication, stations that were already in place but to which we had lost access due to equipment damage. That's how we're going to become stronger. We have already entered not only the internet, but we have also begun to strengthen, let's say, the 2G mobile community right now. This is used for security only, exclusively by the Indigenous Guard. But we also said among our people, we said, we are going to buy a transmitter, a transistor for a television, and we also have a community television right now. But our dream is to reach almost a regional level, and we are projecting that.
Community-centered connectivity initiatives sustain local cultures, traditional activities, and languages, particularly those that are under threat. They provide relevant and meaningful content in local languages in an inclusive and accessible manner. Like in Indonesia, where the Common Rule Networks Foundation works with art, culture, communication, and new technologies.
Good morning, my name is Gustav, and my second name is Gustav Hariman Iskandar. I work with Common Room. We have been learning a lot that the community network is not merely about the physical internet infrastructure per se. In order to have an appropriate approach on internet developments among rural communities, we also need to conduct a cultural approach and recognize local culture and traditions, because internet is not only a new platform that can utilized by the local communities to communicate and to access information, but also it can be very useful to enhance the artistic and cultural expressions.
What else? Well, community-centered connectivity initiatives are also related to ownership. They strive for community ownership of the infrastructure or services through open and inclusive participation in its governance and management. All examples of experiences around the world mentioned in this podcast involve different network governance and management models, but all of them are participatory and focused on the community. If you're interested in this subject, go to the description of this episode on your audio player to get access to the materials we have separated for you. These kinds of community initiatives many times also build technical capacity in the community to maintain and operate the infrastructure or services. They can also represent an opportunity to build the digital capacity of users to make informed decisions about their internet use and to benefit from social and economic opportunities online. Community-centered connectivity initiatives are also connected to others. They have been sharing their lessons and experiences to support collective, multi-stakeholder actions. These projects are unique for each local reality. They are tailored to their specific environments and communities. There is no single standard to be replicated around the world. But all community-centered connectivity initiatives are meaningful when they respond to the needs and interests of a community, as defined by the community. Principles like those we presented today have been developed by the Local Networks Initiative through an extensive consultation process with community-centered connectivity initiatives working in different regions across the Global South. They do not seek to romanticize these experiences, nor erase their challenges, nor are they a formula to make everyone fit in. However, they have achieved results in practice that can inspire us to reflect on connectivity models and alternatives. If you're interested in this subject, go to the description of this episode on your audio player to get access to the materials we have separated for you. Among them, you'll find a publication with all the principles in full. In it, the Local Networks Initiative explains that while the principles were developed to help communities discuss their priorities when setting up an initiative, some are considered fundamental to any community-centered projects. These include being focused on the community's needs, being participatory, working with supportive external stakeholders, and strengthening the community's well-being. Other principles are aspirational or achievable over time and may not be central to all initiatives. For example, some may operate with the social business model without focusing on community ownership. These principles can evolve, but we believe they should form the foundation for any community-centered connectivity initiative in unserved or underserved communities.
What makes community network different from commercial service provider? Because with community network, you can add on so many things that provide solution for the community.
If you listen to episode 1 of this season, you will remember Professor Kanchana Kanchanasut from Thailand, who has been working for many years in the mission to close the digital gaps in her country.
Hello, my name is Kanchana Kanchanasut I am from Thailand. I work at the Asian Institute of Technology.
Her work is also very inspiring and pioneering, especially for women.
The idea of a community network is not popular in Thailand because we are used to having governments to build infrastructure, whether it be telecommunication or roads or anything. So people have that kind of mindset. So what we did is something that we believe is useful, but it's not in the eyes of the majority of the people. Right? Many people, once they got to know our project, say, "Oh, very nice, very good idea," and so on. But it's very hard for someone to try to duplicate what we are doing and try to do it in other provinces. Or it's not that the concept is good, but it's not yet widely adopted. I think we need to work hard on this, and I believe that the concept of having the local community to build their own network, particularly for those remote villages, remote communities, they should be able to decide what they want to do with their own, community. They should not sit and wait for the provider to come and this type of thing. So we are trying to convince people to go to this, with this direction. Of course, we talk to government people, we talk to regulators, and try to at least make them aware of this type of approach, and try to not to abandon community network, and try to at least make use of the concept in areas that the provider could not go into, and we don't want people to wait forever. We want to close the gap.
If you like this podcast, please recommend it to those you know will appreciate it as well. If you want to know more about the projects we talked about here, check out the links we have provided in this episode's description. Just reminding you that all the interviews we've heard today were recorded in 2023 for Season 1 of the podcast. The information and perspectives shared were made in that context. In the episode description, as always, we'll include up-to-date information and links to resources that help continue this conversation. You can follow Season 2 on the main podcast platforms or on APC's website, routingforcommunities.apc.org. In our next episode, we'll talk about public policies, regulation, and financing networks. Don't miss it. You just listened to Episode 3 of Season 2 of Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world. This is the podcast of the Local Networks Initiative, a collective effort led by APC and Risomatica. Production, Rádio Tertúlia. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye.